And your guest, Brooke Goldstein, who is, an award-winning human rights lawyer, says there's no such thing as Palestinian person. Folks, what you're seeing right now to my left is a genocidal sociopath. She is the villain. Let me finish. You've spoken a lot. I've kept quiet. I've spoken the least. What you're seeing to my left is Brooke Goldstein. She's going to be the villains of our children's history books.
Welcome back, everyone. An important one today. We have a Jewish Israeli citizen and hostage negotiator, Gershon Baskin, condemning his own Israeli government. New York Times writer Wajahat Ali knocking some sense into yet another Zionist, Brooke Goldstein, who is an author and attorney. Before we start, I'm so glad we have Wajahat Ali back on. He said something a while ago which has really resonated with me since. He said, sometimes I don't even need to say anything. Let these Zionists talk. Let them talk openly and freely and watch them as they expose themselves. Let's start with Gershon, as I think his point of view is extremely important. Let's take a look.
I'm not only Jewish, I'm an Israeli, and I'm an Israeli by choice, and I've been living in Israel for 47 years. My children were born here. My wife was born here. I am not anti-Israel, but my government is committing war crimes in Gaza. And the arguments that were presented by Brooke belong in the garbage bin of history. It's an intellectual insult, the kind of things that we heard here that insinuate that there's no such thing as a Palestinian people when there are 7 million Palestinians living between the river and the sea. How can you deny the existence of a people, 7 million people who call themselves, excuse me, let me talk. What Israel is doing should not be tolerated by the Israeli public, nor by anyone in the entire world. This war has to end. Mustafa Barghouti was 100% right that Hamas has given in writing, in English and in Arabic. I received from them in August of last year a commitment to end the war and return all the hostages, and then there was more than 100 hostages that they were holding. But they demand an end to the war. They demand that Israel withdraw from Gaza. They demand a release of Palestinian prisoners, and they demand that humanitarian aid go into Gaza. They also added in writing, twice I've received from them in Arabic, that Hamas will not govern Gaza.
He says, and I quote, I'm not only Jewish, but I'm Israeli. My wife and children were born here, and I've been living here for 47 years, and my government is committing war crimes. He goes on to say what Israel is doing should not be tolerated by the Palestinians, and nor should it be tolerated by the entire world. There isn't a single argument that can be made to defend the actions of Israel. Let's move on to Brooke, followed by Wajahat's response.
What we have here in Gaza is a situation that I think is being overcomplicated by politics and hatred for Israel, or Islamic Jihad, that has spent the last almost 20 years building a terrorist state and the largest subterranean terrorist compound in order to use its own civilians as human shields in a war to destroy Israel. Now, Hamas knows that it cannot defeat Israel on the battlefield. No one can really defeat Israel on the battlefield. So what it has done instead is perpetrated this propaganda campaign where it wants the world to believe that Israel is responsible for the situation of the Gazan people.
Brooke Goldstein's the same person who publicly said there's no such thing as a Palestinian person. Well, Israel has killed 61,000 Palestinians in real time. We've seen it with our eyes. Israel has also injured 150,000 Palestinians. Just yesterday, Piers, Israel killed 83 unarmed Palestinians, 58 of them who were gathered at food aid distribution sites. As you know, as we talked about on your show, Haaretz has said, quoting IDF soldiers, that they were commanded to shoot and kill at unarmed Palestinians who are starving, gathered at food aid distribution sites. Since May, Piers, over 1,200 Palestinians have been killed by Israel. Brooke says anyone who criticizes Israel, right, they're supporting Hamas, promoting Hamas. Each time Brooke says Hamas, take a shot of alcohol, you'll be dead of alcohol poisoning in 2 minutes, right? But the reality is, folks, is that Israel is occupying the West Bank and Gaza. Israel is the one creating a man-made starvation. Just yesterday, Piers, 8 Palestinian children died of starvation. That number is increasing. Brooke is one of those people who would put a microphone in front of these starving Palestinian kids and say, do you condemn Hamas? This is a man-made campaign. I just want to say just yesterday, Israeli senior official close to Netanyahu, this is her quote, Piers, the die is cast. We're going for full conquest. If the chief of staff doesn't agree, he should resign. I've been on your show before. Does that sound familiar? Here's Smotrich, the finance minister of Israel. We're conquering, cleansing, and remaining in Gaza until Hamas is destroyed. The prime minister, Netanyahu, said, he praised that quote. And then if you're talking about, it's only us who are criticizing, Israel. Well, how about the former prime minister of Israel, Ehud Olmert? This is his words. I'm going to quote him. What we're doing in Gaza now is a war of devastation, indiscriminate, limitless, cruel, and criminal killing of civilians. Yes, Israel is committing war crimes. Here's another former prime minister, Yair Lapid. I don't prefer to describe Netanyahu's humanitarian city as a concentration camp, but if exiting is prohibited of the Palestinians, then it is a concentration camp. And then finally, here is the United Nations Secretary General. Gaza is a horror show with a level of death and destruction without parallel in recent times. Piers, I ask you, do we ignore the evidence of our eyes? Do we ignore the evidence of our ears? Of course not. You and I have talked about this for nearly 2 years now. We are seeing a genocide. It's not my word. Omar Bertov, one of the most preeminent genocide scholars in the world, Israeli, Jewish American, is saying it's a genocide. Amnesty International. And if you don't like the word genocide, war crimes. This can end, and I agree with your other guest, if President Trump picks up the phone and calls Netanyahu, just like it happened with Reagan, just like it happened back in the day with Dwight Eisenhower, America shuts off the tap. Israel cannot continue this war without U.S. funding, weapon, and aids. And then maybe, just maybe, there might be a path towards peace. But this right now is a genocide. And anyone, after 2 years, who comes on your show and defends it is a genocidal sociopath, and they should be called out publicly.
Brooke has it the wrong way round. If anyone's overcomplicating things, it's the Israeli government, deliberately to prolong the suffering of the Palestinians. She talks about the tunnel system, apparently 350 miles. Yeah, right, you need to be a twit to believe something like that. Wajahat Ali's response was magnificent. We can sit here and talk and debate as much as we want. He backs it with facts over and over again from the Israeli leadership. When it comes out of the horse's mouth, how can anyone deny it?
Something that's been going on even before the creation of the State of Israel, where we've had hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Muslim children educated, through their textbooks, through their television programs, by their religious clerics, by their teachers, often by their own parents, to revere a very violent version of Islam. And when you teach an entire population for decades that it is their sole responsibility to engage in conflict and to have a war to reestablish the caliphate.
Yeah, I've been invited on your show for the past 2 years, Piers, and increasingly I feel like I don't have to say anything. We just have to let the pro-Israel advocate speak openly. And then the world, with their own ears, hears the genocidal rhetoric, the cruelty. The world has been radicalized in real time because they have seen a genocide streamed to their phone. Again, I want to remind everyone that 61,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israel. That's an undercount. Lancet, the medical journal, says probably 40% higher. Israel has also bombed churches because there are Palestinian Christians that it has killed and occupies. And I also remind people that Israel currently occupies the West Bank. Hamas does not control the West Bank. There are 2.5 million Palestinians there who live under military law. Unequal conditions, conditions of apartheid. That's not my words. That's Amnesty International, Jimmy Carter, Desmond Tutu, who knows a thing or two about fighting apartheid. I want to remind everyone, trust the evidence of your eyes where you see starving children, where humanitarian aid is being blocked right now, where there are more child amputees in Gaza than any other place in the world. That's thanks to Israel. More children have been killed by Israel in Gaza than in all the war zones combined in the past 2.5 years. We are seeing it with our eyes. And just listen to Israel and Israel's leadership. I want to again quote the senior officials close to Netanyahu, who said this week, the die is cast. We're going for full conquest. If the chief of staff doesn't agree, he should resign. And your guest, Brooke Goldstein, who is, an award-winning human rights lawyer, says there's no such thing as Palestinian person. Folks, what you're seeing right now to my left is a genocidal sociopath. She is the villain. Let me finish. You've spoken a lot. I've kept quiet. I've spoken the least. What you're seeing to my left is Brooke Goldstein. She's going to be the villains of our children's history books. People, speak up, speak out, convince your government to do more. Israel is on a self-destructive path. And I believe people like Gershon, who lives in Israel, he cares about Israel. He cares about Israel's future. He cares about the safety and security of Jews and Palestinians. The path of Netanyahu, the path of Ben Gvir is of Jewish supremacy and extremism. It will annihilate Palestinians. It will make the region less safe, less volatile. By the way, Israel, under Netanyahu's government, has done 35,000 targeted strikes against 4 countries and Palestinians, right? This extremist organization, this extremist regime, the Netanyahu regime, has to be replaced. We need better leadership, and we need a pathway for Palestinians to finally have self-determination and freedom. It's the only way. The path of Brooke is destruction and annihilation for Palestinians, and also it is terrible for Jews around the world. Hopefully, everyone watching looks at the evidence of their eyes and their ears, and the evidence shows you a story of Israeli genocide against the Palestinian people.
Brooke, who's apparently an attorney, surely she's been in the courthouse more than a few times. Surely she can defend her case without facts. She brought nothing with her except her own horrible opinion. She talks about Muslim children being brainwashed. Was she there in the mosque listening whilst the teacher radicalized the children? This lady is deluded. Wajahat Ali, seriously, this guy just reminds me of another Mehdi Hassan. Calm, collected, cool and extremely intelligent. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Support me by liking and subscribing, and I'll see you all on the next video. Peace out.